Hey guys, welcome back, bitches. Today we're doing a reacting video on my friend's phone.
Which
Yeah,
one?
this video will be hour and 57 minutes.
Oh my fucking god!
Not that Duolingo.
No, it's the worst language.
Yeah, just take the phone and put it here. We and the viewers are gonna watch it.
You would do you?
All I could do was tribute the shouting to some random jump scare video I watched on the internet. But since then, what I saw that night never happened. I never thought about going on Omegle again.
I used to browse through magazines and realize how average looking I truly was. I've always wanted to be someone whose beauty would captivate every man that passes by. But no matter what I did, I was always this skinny, ordinary girl to everyone. As the years passed, the sensation persisted like an itch that wouldn't go away. I became increasingly dissatisfied with myself and wanted to look like my hot idol, Angelina Jolie. At the time, she was the primary standard when it came to looks, and I'd do anything to obtain that fountain of beauty. As a result, I received consultation from multiple doctors, all of whom became the bearer of bad news. They said I didn't need it, and tried convincing me to reconsider my choices. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. I was going to get what I wanted, and I wasn't going to let some silly doctor tell me otherwise. So one day, I decided to vent my frustration to a friend, saying,
I'd do the operation myself if I could, but I'm no damn doctor.
My friend then peered over our shoulders to make sure no one was listening and whispered,
I've got a better idea. Have you ever tried looking into the black market?
The black market? No, I haven't.
I know someone there. I'm sure you'd love him. See my lips? He's an expert in this kind of stuff. You should give him a try.
In my head, there was no time for doubts. All I needed was to take action, and my dream would finally come true. After further discussion, I learned that the doctor had conducted numerous operations on various clients, who in the end were happy and content. He had done everything from facelifts to BBLs, the whole 9 yards. And the best part was that he rendered his services at an affordable price, much lower than what professionals would charge. I was adamant about looking exactly like Angelina Jolie. So later that day, I picked up the phone and called the doctor.
Hello.
Hi, are you the doctor that specializes in plastic surgery?
Yes, how may I help you, madam?
My friend told me you did a great job on her lips. Her name is Isabel. Do you remember her?
It took a while for the doctor to reply, but he eventually said,
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't recall an Isabel. Perhaps it's because I have too many patients.
Well, my name is Sarah, and I'd like to schedule an appointment with you and explain my specifications.
Of course, dear, it would be my pleasure. The sooner we meet, the better. Let me give you my address.
He replied in a tone that sounded reassuring. Moments later, I was in Newton, and upon reaching my destination, a huge old house stood before me. I began to be clouded with second thoughts. However, despite being reluctant, I took a deep breath and walked up the steps until I reached the front door. I then gingerly gave the front door a knock. Upon knocking, a large decrepit man with a huge grin on his face opened the door. He wore a lab coat and had the doctor attire going on, with a stethoscope around his neck and everything. He then said,
Well, hello. We meet at last. Come inside.
I certainly wasn't expecting him to look as creepy as he did. His eyes were bulging out and his skin looked pale like the texture of a dried plum. But as we all know, looks can be deceiving, and it would be inappropriate to judge his skills based on his physical appearance alone. I stepped inside, where he led me through a dark, narrow hallway. I sat on top of the operating table as he began to gather more details
that's still
before the
live.
surgery.
So, Miss Sarah, how can I help you today?
I would like my face to look like Angelina Jolie.
How splendid. I have all the necessary tools and chemicals to conduct the operation. Shall we get started?
I was contemplating backing out, but I'd been rejected too many times at this point, so it was literally now or never. And so, after further consultation, I told him exactly what I wanted. I could tell he was listening to every word I said, because once in a while, he would inquire and clarify specific points while taking down notes, ensuring he didn't leave out anything significant. I then put a payment down in cash, followed by an NDA contract which he made me sign before we began the procedure. As I sat there, mentally preparing myself for this moment, the doctor shoved a cloth over my face. The next few moments were a complete blur. My vision was hazy and distorted by whatever the hell was on that cloth. I remember vague moments of seeing a heart monitor, amniotic fluid on the side, and a mask covering my face. Then, I could see him hovering over me saying,
Don't worry. When you wake up, you will look exactly like Angelina Jolie, my darling. Now go to sleep.
Then I was out. My fate was now in the hands of the man who would change my life forever. Several hours later, I woke up in a wheelchair. My vision was still blurry, and I became more aware of my surroundings. I was now in his living room. I began to feel severe pain while remaining completely immobile due to the effects of the chemicals in my body. I raised my hand and tried to touch my face, but it was completely wrapped in bandages. I then began to panic. However, as I squirmed in the chair, the doctor approached me and said,
Don't move now. Stay very still. Just take a deep breath and relax.
I looked him in the eyes and did exactly as he instructed. Then, moments later, he took the same cloth from earlier and shoved it on my face, causing me to doze off again. When I woke up, I was sitting in the passenger seat of his car, parked outside of my house. He then told me to remove the bandages after 12 hours and to kindly exit the vehicle. Despite feeling sluggish, I thanked him and went inside my house. I was relieved that it was over and ecstatic that I finally got it done. Then, at exactly 12 hours, I took off the bandages. Keeping my eyes closed, I anticipated the big reveal. But once I removed the bandages, my face looked like it had been ran over. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I touched my face thoroughly, unable to comprehend what I was seeing in the mirror. It wasn't anywhere close to becoming the next Angelina Jolie. I was a freaking zombie. Since then, I have been living daily looking like a corpse bride lookalike, regretting that I wanted more when I could have been satisfied with what I had. However, traumatized by the incident, I decided to veer away from plastic surgery, fearing that I would lose more than I already had.
Most YouTubers like
The
talking to
story
me.
was inspired
He
by an
actually
image of a woman from
being
Iran
quiet,
who got
really.
plastic surgery to look like the one and only Angelina Jolie. Her decision to drastically alter her appearance has made her quite the viral sensation. We like to think her doctor was perhaps a fan of Tim Burton.
Wait, that's her? Or that's her? That was her and that's she. Ah, this girl.
Around the year 2013, me and an old colleague from college, who we'll call Lisa, decided to open up our own business. We opened up a wax salon, to be exact, and leased a location by a plaza about 15 minutes away from my place. Like any business at the beginning, we had to start from scratch. So we had a small place with a lobby area, a front desk, and a washroom and wax room on the first and second floors. I was initially anxious, afraid we had to wait until customers poured in. However, my business partner and I were pleasantly surprised by the decent amount of customers we'd been receiving. Pumped up, we provided all kinds of services, from Brazilian wax and full body wax to eyebrows and the whole 9 yards. The customers loved every one of them. And speaking of customers, we had all sorts of people coming in, from typical jock females from a nearby college and women with plans to go out on a date to flat-out hairy people. One of the best parts of the job was the screaming. I don't mean to sound like a sadist, but I found it amusing that people would have the courage to undergo such pain to remove all that unwanted hair. In any case, this was the norm, and with money constantly pouring in, I didn't care what kind of clients we had. But things got weird as time went on. As reliable as Lisa had been for the past couple of months, she began developing bizarre habits. For instance, one day, Lisa carried a plastic bag with thick red liquid oozing out. Moments later, she revealed the contents, and I found out that they were the liver and spleen of a cow. But that wasn't the strangest part. If you want to know what gave me the creeps, was seeing her consume them right before me. There was something just so unsettling about watching someone consume raw, juicy innards. Although I found it odd and undesirable, I assumed it was a cultural thing and decided to be polite. However, I must admit that I lost my appetite after watching her eat.
What's the matter? Ain't hungry?
Lisa asked, as she drew a delightful grin.
Well, I had a lot to eat this morning.
I reluctantly replied, as I patted my belly.
That's too bad.
And she returned to her sumptuous meal like a rabid animal. I'd never seen her like this before, so I didn't know how to react. Then, another time, Lisa called in sick, grumbling about something over the phone, which I couldn't understand.
Oh, fucking God.
She
I
kept
don't know
lashing
how.
out at me with tons of gibberish, so I didn't know how to respond to her.
But it's still
Eventually, I'd
bright
tell her
in
to rest
here.
and end the call, a tad
the
worried and
camera.
confused, but it became more and more frequent as time passed, so I couldn't help but feel uneasy. When Lisa came back
that's
to
actually
work
where it
again,
goes.
she'd sincerely
No, it doesn't.
apologized,
It does that.
reverting to her
I know.
usual self. It convinced me that her odd behavior over the phone was just a sign of discomfort, and whenever she recuperated, we'd be able to converse like normal people again. However, while doing some paperwork one day, my finger bled a little, and my instinct to sanitize it before applying adhesive bandages kicked in. Then suddenly, out of the blue, Lisa rushed towards me, grabbed my hand, and licked the wound like some creep.
Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?
I hollered, disgusted and afraid.
Well, I think we ran out of bandages, so I did what I could to help.
She grinned, so I held my hand and told her I was fine. Then, I forced a smile to let her think I was telling the truth. One night, as we worked on the last batch of customers, I finished up early and went to check on one of them. Suddenly, I heard an unusual hollering from the room at the far end. It's easy to assume that there wasn't anything unusual with it. However, this was different. It was incessant and desperate, which sent chills down my spine. Something was off, and I was downright horrified. So, I had to creep cautiously and silently as I approached the source of the scream. Then, gently, I opened the door and sneaked downstairs. But as I came closer, I heard gargling and moaning sounds, which I'd never heard from any of our customers before. I slowly made my way towards the wax room and began to quietly open the door. When suddenly, Lisa came barging from behind me, slamming the door shut. Unable to stop my body from trembling, I could see Lisa's mouth completely covered in blood, looking at me with a sadistic stare in her eyes.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to barge in.
I immediately dashed towards the stairs, hoping she wouldn't follow me. Then I sat by the front desk, unable to decide whether to call the cops or get the hell out of there. I was so nervous that I bit my nails, constantly sweating as I curled up into a coil. Moments later, Lisa came upstairs, reaching for my hand, as she apologized about the ordeal that just took place.
Sorry about what just happened. I just had a late lunch.
She said, insinuating that she had a bite of cow's liver, which gave her that frightening appearance. Desperately trying to conceal my fear, I smiled and played along. Moments later, she asked me to leave early, insisting she'd stay behind to clean up and close the shop. Without thinking twice, I grabbed my purse and ran the hell out of there. Eventually, I called Lisa and told her I wanted to lease out the building and never see her again.
Wait, what? I don't understand. We were doing so well.
I could tell she was confused and hurt by the tone of her voice on the phone. I had to tell her several times that I had made up my mind and wasn't willing to compromise. She eventually caved in, and that was the last time we spoke. As the months passed, she became a stranger to me. Unfortunately, I never knew whatever became of that customer. But sometimes I
why the
wonder
camera is
what
so
could have
bright when
happened
it's
if
like-
this business had continued.
Sometimes
Would she have consumed
yo, so
me
guys, we're gonna
eventually?
stop the video and let's talk about some things. First thing, the first video, it kind of was scary because I thought of that, like the man made her face like that. That's like bad. How does her friend even lie about her? Like her friend said that she got the lips from him. How the fuck did he get lips from her? Like, bro, I think she went to the wrong doctor. Yeah. So guys, this video, when I saw her eat that, I thought it was a heart. But if that's a liver, I'm gonna take it as. So we can continue the video and see what happens. So yeah, it will be continued.
I shook my head, hoping I'd never see her again.
Right. Okay, we will finish the video, okay? This is the second story. We're gonna watch two more stories.
Is an urban legend
McDonald,
inspired by the
no, the
notorious
shit.
Ronald McDonald, and of course the popular Big Mac from McDonald's. We wanted to animate the origin story of what caused the Big Mac to be what it is today. Seeing as traditional hamburgers all look generally the same, with the Big
Okay,
Mac
I don't
being
want
the
to actually
exception.
see this
Here's
now.
a disturbing animation for all the Nightmare Fuel fans out there. Just know that we definitely emphasize the big in Big Mac. Have you ever wondered why the classic Big Mac always had 2 patties in it? Maybe it's to stand out from the competition. I beg to differ, since hearing about the most uncoveted secret that they've been keeping confidential for all these years. For those that hear my story, don't say you heard it from me. This story happened to a friend of mine. We'll call one of the guys Harold and his fellow acquaintance Kumar for the sake of the story. Apparently, it all started when the pair were at Harold's house, watching TV and getting under the influence. I don't know what their choice of beverage or whatever was, but it sure did give them bloodshot eyes. After about a dozen sitcoms, both of them
Probably
suddenly
beer.
looked at each other dead in the eyes and shouted in unison, "I got the munchies!" You got any food? Come on, man. I know your mom probably hooks you up with leftovers from a restaurant. My mom works at a massage parlor, you idiot! Sheesh. Well, I could use a happy ending, too. The pair both head to the kitchen to check if there was any food remaining in the fridge. But to their dismay, there was nothing but an expired loaf of bread with mold growing on it. Kumar then suggests that they order some takeout. Harold immediately shuts down Kumar's request, attributing his reasons to being broke and not owning a single dime to his name since his last retail job. They both then mutually decide to go for a midnight stroll and find the nearest fast food venue to relieve them of their munchies. Dude, look, there's a McDonald's down there. I think we should hit it up. Do we have a choice? There isn't a White Castle or any other restaurants open, Mr. Harry Nuts. As they approach the McDonald's, they encounter something bizarre in front of the parking lot. There lied an enormous piece of round bread with a huge slice of cheese on top of it. The pair stood there dumbfounded. Why would the staff leave such a large piece of bread in front of the restaurant like that? And how did such a food exist in a dimension that size? Nonetheless, Harold brushes the notion off as some silly promotion for an upcoming hamburger at McDonald's. As the two head over to the front, they notice that the restaurant was closed, and the only way they were going to get food was at the drive-thru. That's when Kumar storms off towards the drive-thru menu, scanning it like a hungry dog hoping to get an end to his munchies. When the pair finally came to a consensus on what they wanted to order, they approached the drive-thru window and found a large bundle of red cotton protruding from the inside. Dude, am I tripping or are you seeing what I'm seeing? Looks like strawberry cotton candy. Okay, well, I ain't eating that. It probably has debris and bird crap in it. Out of nowhere, the red cotton yanked through the window and into the restaurant. The two glanced through the window, trying to find any staff that might have been lurking inside. I'm not loving it! Ah! Dude, I think I'm hallucinating! Are you? That's when a giant face of Ronald McDonald appeared from inside the drive-thru window. The pair couldn't comprehend if they were faced with a behemoth in the flesh, or if this was just a figment of their under-the-influence stupor. The clown then makes it clear that he wasn't pleased with Kumar's remarks, saying, "Don't ever talk bad about my luscious hair like that, you little rodent! You wish you could have an afro like this! Now, may I please take your order?" Dude, this is some kind of robot, like those animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese. I'll get a hamburger, sir. Yeah, I'll get a hamburger, too. Would you both like to be a part of the grand promotion of the Big Mac? It's our new McDonald's hamburger. Sure, dude. As long as we get our food ASAP. We got the munchies. Indeed. And how would you like to pay, sir? I'll take care of it, dude. Credit card, please. Well, unfortunately, there's no ATM around here. So you'll have to pay inside! The clown then extends both his arms to the window and grabs hold of Kumar, yanking him inside. Ah! What the hell is going on? Harold tried prying the window open with his bare hands, but
Is
it was
he
locked
dumb
from the
or
inside.
stupid?
He then tried opening the front door, but it wouldn't budge.
Both.
In a fit of hunger and rage, Harold heads back to the drive-thru window and begins slamming his fists against the glass while yelling, "Open the door, I'll make sure McDonald's fires you, you stupid clown!" Suddenly, something catches Harold's eyes that made him run towards the McDonald's pole and climb it. In an instant, Ronald McDonald climbs up the drive-thru window, revealing himself to be a giant, a modern David versus Goliath. Harold held on for dear life, staring up at the eyes of the Leviathan. The clown then pinches the pole and begins to shake it around while Harold screams for dear life. Ah! Leave me alone, I'm calling the cops! I bet you're used to shaking it on a pole!
How
The
did
clown
one
then
fit in
grabs
the
Harold and
McDonald's?
tosses him toward the front of the restaurant, landing on the enormous bread topped with cheese. That's when the giant began to maniacally assemble the so-called Big Mac, suffocating Harold with another piece of bread. He then topped it off with a few condiments, then with Kumar, and then, finally, the crown to top it all off. This marks my territory! The world will now know what the
the Big Mac is! We shall rule all fast food chains and restaurants! I'm loving it! I'm loving it! I'm loving it!
Oh, hell no.
That wasn't even scary. I know that ain't a true story.
True New Year's horror story.
Together forever.
I used to frequent this gym a lot towards the end of last year. I needed my body to be in the right condition for the big year I was planning
Well,
on
you're
having,
probably
and I
around as
wanted to be ahead
hell.
of the curve. So instead of waiting
That's
until
okay.
January, I got the jump on the New Year's resolutions and started working out around the end of November. I hadn't gone to the gym in a while, but I knew how it usually went with the guys there. I don't like getting catcalled and stared at constantly, so I would always work out late at night. However, there was one guy who I didn't mind too much when he catcalled me. I know that's a bad thing to admit, but I liked him. He wasn't the definition of handsome to most people, but to me, he was the sort of guy that I found attractive for some reason. We said hi to each other every night, as we were both consistently going around the same time. Eventually, as our conversations grew, we ended up working out together. One thing led to another, and suddenly, I was going on dates with him and bringing him home to my parents. My parents and friends all said the same thing, that he looked like some kind of Frankenstein. At the time, I acted super offended on his behalf. I always thought he was different from the other guys I dated in the past. For instance, he used to do this thing every time we were together, where he'd tell me to hold out my ring finger, then he'd grab it really tight and say, "Together forever," in that really deep voice of his. Of course I would respond back with,
This one, Ted.
Forever.
and he'd
Wait,
let
can
go.
you give me
When it came
the
close to New Year's, he invited me over to his house for a dinner party to meet his
Hold on,
family.
I'm already,
It seemed important to
trying
him,
to
so I
speak
agreed.
Latvian.
Unfortunately, when I got there,
yeah.
the romantic fantasy I was deluding
I'm
myself
a little
with
bit
started to
from-
fall
I'm actually a
apart.
little
I
bit
knocked
from
on the door and my
Latvia. I
boyfriend
was like,
answered, bringing me
Latvian
inside. The first
for a
thing I
year,
noticed was
and
that the
then
house smelled horrible. I wanted to throw up so bad, but was somehow able to hold my composure. The next room over was the kitchen. The lights were off, but I could see his father sitting at the table hunched over, slack-jawed and drooling. Every few seconds, his neck would twitch, but other than that, he was motionless, his lifeless eyes just staring off into space. And his younger son was no different. He stood in the corner with his back to us, staring intently at the old-fashioned clock, waiting for the New Year countdown. I noticed that the clock was several hours off, but I wasn't sure if any of them knew. I could also see his mother by the sink, and for some ungodly reason, she was washing the family cat, and the cat was just as spaced out as the rest of them. But somehow, it was the most normal-looking living thing in the household. Seeing the whole family together and realizing just how distorted their features were made me sick to my stomach. What all my friends were saying this whole time finally clicked in my head. They all looked like relatives of that weird, malformed dude from the Goonies. I reluctantly took my seat at the table and hoped the night would go better. My boyfriend went to fix me some food by the kitchen counter, leaving me to sit awkwardly with his father. With 2 hours left until midnight, I tried to make small talk with him.
We're gonna end the video.
No, let's just wait until this ends.
We're gonna end the video after this.
Don't want to talk, huh? I understand. So, how'd you meet your wife?
I couldn't get a word out of that man. I'm not even sure he knew I was there. I shivered in fear and stopped trying to make conversation. After an eternity passed, my date came back with a plate of food. When he put it down in front of me, I couldn't help but gag as it was just a can of cat food on a crusty plate. I kindly rejected him, saying I wasn't feeling hungry and had lost my appetite. That's when he started yelling at me saying, "What? My mom worked hard on cooking that for our New Year's party. You better eat it."
But it's just cat food. I can see the can on the counter.
He never yelled at me like that before. I was shaken up, but when I called him out on the cat food, he flipped out even more. He gave me this look on his face that a toddler would make when they didn't get what they wanted. What made things more disturbing was how he started to act like one too, grabbing a handful of the cat food and shoving it into his mouth. Seeing a fully grown adult act in such a manner was one of the most disturbing things I had ever seen. The next hour was really awkward. His mother came in from the kitchen to sit with us. I was hoping that she would be talkative, but she looked no less brain dead than her husband. We all sat there in complete silence, while all of them stared off into space, except for my date. He glared at me the entire time, unable to move on from being mad at me for not eating the slop I was offered. I checked my phone, and 12 a.m. had finally hit. It was officially New Year's. The mother stood up and kissed the father, but what made things all the more bizarre was when she hobbled over and kissed the little brother, and then my date. When I say kissed, I don't mean a simple peck on the cheek. It was a full-out kiss on the mouth. That's when I knew there was something seriously wrong, and I needed to get out of there as soon as possible. But before I could even stand, that giant, freakish man was looming over me. He grabbed my ring finger in a vice grip and started chanting, "Together forever, together forever, together forever." And that's when I heard his family speak for the first time.
Together forever, together forever, together forever.
He started squeezing my finger so tight that I thought he might break it.
Ow, stop it, let me go! Ow, stop it, let me go! Shut up, let go of me!
Shut up, let go of me! Shut up, let go of me!
Stop it, why are you doing this? What's going on? Stop it, why are you doing this? What's going on?
I couldn't comprehend what was going on. All I remember was fighting against his grip like I was fighting for my life. When I finally got free, I bolted straight out of the door. It was snowing outside, but I didn't waste time putting my coat or shoes on. I kept running down the street until I was far enough away to be sure that I wasn't being followed. I then called an Uber and went home. I thought about calling the cops, but I had no idea what I'd even say to them. Since then, I ended up blocking his number and canceling my gym membership just so I could move on and forget all about it.
So, okay, this was the last video we will watch. So yeah,
Bye.
goodbye.